You're listening to Parasearch Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Haunted Histories with your host Penny G. Morgan, right here on Parasearch UK Radio.
And a very, very good evening to everyone tonight. I hope you're all well. Yep, it's me. It's Penny G. Morgan. It's time for another episode of what I like to think of the rather fascinating and rather interesting Haunted Histories here on Parasearch Radio. How are you all? What have you been up to? Talk to me. Come in the chat room. Say hello. Be friendly. It's been a bit of a quiet week this week. My husband was working last weekend, so I spent the day looking after my kids, or babysitting the kids, as some people like to say. Babysitting their own kids does make me laugh. But yeah, so didn't really get much done last weekend. But I've got a good weekend coming up. I'm off to the Red Lion in Colchester on Saturday with the guys from C&D Paranormal, and I think there's going to be a few other people there as well. I think our friend Ashley Buckingham's going to be there, and a few other people. It's a charity event, and I've donated a copy of my book for them to hopefully raise some money for the autism charity that they support. So yeah, I think you can still donate money to there's loads of different books. I think Jane Harris has donated something. I think MJ Dixon has donated some tickets to Sage as well. So yeah, go along, have a look. C&D Paranormal. But I'm sure I'll be doing a show on the Red Lion at some point, because there's an awful lot of interesting stuff I've been researching. But what's tonight's show all about? Well, tonight's show, I'm actually talking to someone who I think is rather wonderful, and we've just been having a good old chinwag for the last hour or so, just catching up. And she's actually just put in the chat room, "Hey Pen." Well, I'm glad you're saying hello, Gemma, when you're actually on air with me right now.
Hi, Pen.
Hiya.
Are you alright?
Yeah, I'm alright, chick. You alright?
I'm alright. Oh, you're going all northern again.
I do. Well, it makes me laugh. I will end up talking northern by the end of this call. You do know that, don't you?
I know, right? You start off a southerner, and then as the show goes on, you're going to become a northerner.
Well, I am part northern at the end of the day, so my parents are northerners, so it is kind of in the genes.
It is
kind of in the genes. So, what we're talking about, the ancient Ram Inn tonight.
We are indeed. Yeah. So,
how many times have you been there, chick?
Oh, off the top of my head, probably about 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's nighttime investigations. That's not including daytime visits, though.
Right.
But I wouldn't like to guess total amounts. If I'm honest, I'd just get it wrong.
But it's more than once.
Oh God, yeah.
So you've we're talking about the ancient Ram. For anyone who's not aware of it, which I think most people in the UK are, and anyone who watches all the different television shows on haunted places and stuff has probably heard of it, because I know it's featured quite heavily in quite a few of them. It's in a place called, I don't know how you pronounce it, Wootton or Wotton.
I've always said Wootton.
Wootton. Okay. So it's in a place called Wootton under Edge in Gloucestershire, or what was it? I heard someone pronounce it Gloucestershire or something the other day.
Oh, it's Gloucestershire.
It's Gloucestershire. Gloss. But when I do enjoy seeing people who aren't from England when they try to pronounce some of our quaint country names. Our quaint country names, they do. You try coming from Norfolk, some of the way you get... Actually, I'll tell you a funny story. Right, this is a history thing. This is a history lesson, okay? Where I came from near Norwich, even as I was growing up, and I wasn't born in the 1940s, I hasten to add, quite a bit after that, but lots of places didn't have road signs. And I remember asking, why don't they have road signs? And they said because if the Germans had invaded, because it's obviously on the coast, isn't it, across the North Sea, in effect from Northern Europe, they would have to ask places and they wouldn't know how to pronounce them. Because you've got places in Norfolk that, like, you've got, I think there's one, it's pronounced Tackleston, but it's spelt Talcosneston. But everyone knows it's pronounced Tackleston. And so they actually said once that part of the reason they had these unusual names was that they'd know then if someone was a local or not, because they'd know how to pronounce them.
That wouldn't actually surprise me, if I'm honest.
No, and they'd also know if someone was a foreigner, because even if they had a really good English accent, which, to be fair, spies tended to have, they'd speak the language without an accent. That was part of why they were a spy. They would still have to ask directions, and they knew that anyone who was a local would never need to ask directions, which is one of the reasons they took the road signs down. But it's true that there's some of the...
Saying that, though, if I'm totally honest, I mean, bearing in mind, you know what I'm like, Pen, and no trip with me is ever a road trip unless we go what I call the scenic route. You managed to get lost losing a
sat-nav.
Yeah, I do manage to get lost using a sat-nav, so even if it was my local area, there's a very high chance that I would still ask for directions.
Very probably, but I think they're hoping that most people who lived in the sort of the boonies of Norfolk wouldn't need to.
This is true. And I think we have just discovered that I would make an absolute rubbish spy.
Either that, or you're just conning us into how atrocious you are at finding things and everything else, because you are actually, MI6.
No, I'm definitely useless. Turn left. Okay, I'm going to turn right.
Oh, you're one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when we go on a road trip, I'll drive then, shall I?
Yeah.
All right. It's the deal.
Even worse, passenger.
I have been known to tell passengers to shut them up before.
I think,
they try to tell me
you'd have
how to
tell
drive.
me.
Yeah, or the music goes up.
I think when you're used to being a driver, though, I think it does make you a really bad passenger.
Sorry, I was just having a drink there. My hay fever was making my throat itchy. Yes. Well, the only thing is, when I'm out with the husband, he prefers to drive, and I prefer him to drive because he is the worst navigator known to man. And he's not a bad driver, but we've come to the conclusion that between us, I am a better navigator than he is. Now, I can drive. I'm perfectly happy to drive, but he's happier doing it. So he knows that I will air brake every so often, and I will also do the look out every so often.
The air brake, that is an actual thing, though, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. It is most definitely. It's definitely a thing. Yeah, it's all, no, I do air brake every so often, but sometimes when I'm doing, he genuinely hasn't seen the car in front has stopped, or he hasn't seen the red light, or whatever, and there's me thumping the floor, and him going, "What are you doing?" "Oh, where?" as he slams the brakes on. So
I'm saving us.
I do get it's I don't mind it so much when I'm with him doing it, but when I'm in a friend's car and I hit the air brakes, and then I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to offer to drive in a minute.
Excuse me, did you want me to take over?
I have parked cars for friends before, and they've been struggling so hard to park their car. I'm just like, get out. But yeah. Anyway, so names they have some interesting spellings. But what's even more interesting, right, is when you look at how these names come about. And I looked into because looking into the history side of the RAM, I think without going to the Gloucestershire records office, it's quite hard to find really nitty-gritty stuff, the kind of nitty-gritty that I like to find online.
Yeah, I mean, we just had this conversation off-air as well, didn't we? And even when it comes to the RAM, trying to find actual history, bearing in mind I'm not a historian, but trying to find actual history from the RAM is actually quite difficult. All you get is personal accounts.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help for historians like yourself, Pen. That must be quite frustrating.
It is. I mean, the more research I do into different things, the more I learn about different methods of finding the information. I mean, you never know it. You never know it all. And people like Mike Cavell and other sort of historians like Jane Harris, some of the ones I speak to in the US. They're all great at giving me different ideas of how to find something without going directly to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you can't find it directly, so you circumvent around. But what I've noticed is an awful lot of it needs to be records office stuff, because it's not stuff that's online. Now, as you and I were saying off air, hi Kerry. Kerry's joined us. The evil
Boss
queen
lady
is in the house. Whoop whoop. As I was saying to you off air, I would love to get the chance to go and sit for 3 or 4 hours each week in the local records office of wherever I'm doing a show based on, but unfortunately logistics, it's not possible.
No.
So what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd look into the area that the ram is in and see if I got any like little sort of nuggets of information. And one of the things, I thought the name Wootton Under Edge was a bit of an unusual place name, although Gloucestershire and that part of the world, there's quite a few unusual place names.
Yeah.
But what I found was the name Wootton actually would have originally been known as Woad-tun from the Saxon era, because it does date back to, it's pre-Saxon I believe, but it definitely dates back to the Saxon era. And Woad would have meant wood and tun would have meant village. And what they found is that one of the exports from that area was wood. So it was the village of wood. In the Domesday Book, it was down as Vatun, so similar to Wootton and similar to Wootton, but their own spelling. So again, it's mentioned in the Domesday Book, which is always pretty cool. Not that I can read what's put in the Domesday Book, because it's kind of in Latin and stuff, but it's in the Domesday. I'm not that good. I'm not that good. But it's in there. It's in there. So it has quite a lot of connections to William the Conqueror, which I find quite interesting. And there's actually more connections to William the Conqueror as well, which I'm going to mention if we get round to it. However, it's the fact it's Wootton Under Edge. And I thought, where's the edge bit come in? Is it like flat Earth theory? It's going to fall off the edge of the Earth. Oh
dear, we're not going down flat Earth, are we?
No.
Thank goodness.
No. The under edge bit, they think, relates to the fact that the town itself, or the village, is encased by an edge of limestone. Which, without getting into two sort of different conversations about like supernatural and what causes it and stuff, limestone does come up quite a lot, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's one of the more well-known theories that where there's limestone, there's hauntings.
Yeah, which I thought was quite interesting, considering the reputation that the ram has got. That the village it's in is encased by limestone. Which...
But then, if that's the case, and I know we're not going to get into it, right, but if that is the case, and if limestone encourages paranormal activity, why would it be the one building and not all of them?
Maybe it is all of them, nobody's ever said.
Valid point. I shall take that one, Pen.
You know me, I like to throw back as good as I get.
It's true though, isn't it? You know?
It is. I mean, it's like talking about sort of haunted locations and stuff, and it could be that a whole... Oh,
I'm not necessarily sure we can talk about haunted locations.
I'm doing it safely. I'm not, you know, if anyone listens to this after the event and doesn't know what we're talking about, have a listen to the Paranormal Concept show last night. But that's all I'm going to say. And that's a good thing. But the point I'm making is, say you've got a row of terrace houses, and one of them, like, you know, the 1800s type workers' cottages that you get a lot, and one of them starts reporting loads and loads of activity. How do we know that the other 5... we don't know that the other 5 aren't active as well in the row.
No,
but people
it's the same as...
Either A, they haven't noticed it for whatever reason, or B, they don't want to talk about it, because let's be honest, people still go a bit like, oh, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not going to say it's paranormal because people will laugh at me. So it could be the whole of the bloody village is active, but nobody's ever talked about it.
It's a possibility. We can't rule out possibilities.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. Or it could just be exactly where the ram is placed is in exactly the right point for the whole sort of, I don't know. Do you know what I'm picturing right now? You know that in Ghostbusters where they have the like the all the energy comes up as a giant, almost like reverse hurricane type.
Yeah.
Not hurricane, spinny thing, tornado.
Yeah,
I'm
tornado.
picturing that right under the ram right now, because maybe it's where all the energy converges and that's where it's most powerful, and it's like a beacon or something. I don't know. But it was just the limestone thing I thought was interesting.
It's definitely interesting.
So here we have a place that's been inhabited for thousands of years as a town. We have it was quite cut off from a lot of the other main parts of Gloucestershire. Yeah. So it kind of kept its own council for quite a long time. Not council as in people running it, but dealt with its own affairs and did everything itself for quite a long time. The area as a whole was very prominent in the wool trade. And also, a little fact that I found out about Gloucestershire, which I thought this was quite interesting. You know the red office uniforms the soldiers and that would wear in the 18th and 19th century? You know, the red uniforms?
Yeah.
That material was made there.
What, in Wootton or Gloucestershire?
That area, the greater area. So, from what I found out is that you would have had a lot of spinners in Wootton, because they said it was that Gloucestershire as a whole was part of the wool district. So you would have had all the different processes of wool. So the wool would have come in from one place, then it would have been, I can't think what the term was, but basically when they beat it into bits, so then it gets the spinners work it, and then it goes off to make cloth or get dyed.
You have to be really careful when you're saying that, Pen.
What?
Spinners.
Why?
Do you have to actually think about it? Because I would have to think about it.
You'll have to explain to me off air what I've said.
No, you've said it right. Spinners, wool spinners.
Yeah.
But I would have to think about that before I said it, because I would probably mess that up.
You wouldn't say spinners?
No, probably not.
I don't know what you would have said, you weirdo. And anyway, a lot of the people operating spinning wheels would have been women.
Yeah.
And it would have been the whole cottage industry thing, which is what was predated the Industrial Revolution. So, whilst the material itself wasn't made in Wootton, it's plausible that the process of making said material, it was got a Gloucestershire thing, and the whole of Gloucestershire would have been involved.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was pretty cool. I think the material actually said it was made in, I think part of it was made in Stroud, which is the nearest big town to Wootton.
Yeah,
I just thought that was quite a cool fact.
It's not that far away. Well, it is. It's something that I didn't know.
There you go. But you always learn something with me, though, don't you, Gem?
Always.
Even
always.
If what not to do.
Yeah. Oh, Pen. So you've never actually visited the Ram, have you, Pen?
I have not, no. No. I haven't actually done much investigating down in that part of the world at all. I think most of the stuff I do, it seems to be Midlands or North these days. Because there's a few places in sort of Gloucestershire as an area, and obviously Bristol's not that far from Wootton, is 25 miles or something. There's quite a few places down there I'd like to get the chance to go to some point. But no, I've not investigated it. But the pub itself, the deeds of ownership of the pub are in the Gloucester Records Office, and they believe they date back to 1350. But they believe the property itself is possibly even older, is about 200 years older, but it wouldn't have been a pub initially. They don't think it actually became a pub until the 1800s.
So did you find out what it was?
I did.
Okay.
Well, I found out what I could find in the archaeological historical records. Obviously, I haven't been to the records office to double check this in paperwork, but this is stuff I found on archaeological sites. So when I tend to do research for one of these shows, I don't tend to look at the paranormal information sites. I tend to go to historical, geological, archaeological sites that are going to be a lot more interested in just pure facts rather than Hollywoodizing
and personal experiences.
Exactly. So what they believe, what they believe, that the property could even have had stuff dating before 1145, which is when they think the bulk of the sort of kind of the structure of the ram, as we now know it, was built. But they know that the village had people living there during the Doomsday period, which was 100 years before that, roughly.
Yeah.
They knew they had people living there during the Saxon era, which was before that. And I believe the first mention of Wootton, whatever it was called then, was actually during the Iron Age in 940 AD, because there is the archaeological sort of digs have found at least one Iron Age fort in, I think it's like there's a wooded area, and they found it in there. So it's been inhabited as a place for 2,000 years, roughly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the property was actually built. They think the first main resident there was, well, according to the reports, it's somebody called William Fitzrobert, who was the great-grandson, I believe, of William the Conqueror, or great-great-grandson, something like that, related to William the Conqueror anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually the first priest, vicar, rector, whatever you want to call him, of the nearby St Mary's Church. Now, just to confuse things, there's 6 churches in Wootton. 2 of them are called St Mary's.
Awkward.
Exactly. But you've got St Mary's the parish church, which does date back to the 1100s. And then you've got another one that was actually built under, I think it was George II, so sort of 700 years later. But the one that was actually dates back to the 1100s, they actually started building it in 1154. And they believe that's what this house was used as, the bishop's, or the religious, I suppose almost like the vicarage, for want of a better term, back then. And that's what it was used for an awful long time. It would also have had some of the stonemasons living there who were building the church, because it took them, I think it was, the church started being built in 1154. It was consecrated about 100 years later, I think I found. I can't see where I've written that date. But it didn't actually get finished until 1325. So it took them nearly 200 years to build the church. And people moan about how long builders take now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, though, if you think about it, they didn't have the luxuries that we have now. So building will have been so much more difficult, without a doubt.
Yeah. And you look at the stones they used and everything. It makes me sort of... I do actually find it quite amazing, even though I'm not a church person, so to speak. When I look at churches and how they're built and think the manpower that would have been needed, but also the craftsmanship and everything that was involved.
Oh, the craftsmanship must be amazing. I mean, when you look at the churches, they are beautiful.
They are. I actually quite like ruined churches and ruined abbeys, though. I find them even more beautiful for some weird reason. But anyway, so it's linked to St Mary's Church, the older of the two in Wootton. And it's actually where the bishop would have lived. So it kind of, I don't know why nobody calls it this, but it's a vicarage. It's the easiest way to talk about it. The stuff that I actually found, and I've just found out my consecrated notes, 1283 it was consecrated, but didn't actually get completed until 1325. And ironically, when I looked it up today, it's actually being remodelled at the moment. And they had a nice list on the church sort of history site about all the different remodelling that's happened in its since it was consecrated in 1283. It's quite useful.
Yeah.
So there we have it. We have a church. The property was used as the accommodation for the person who lived in the church or ran the church. So at the time, the bishop. It was, and that's what it was used for hundreds and hundreds of years, according to the stuff I found. And it wasn't until, it was according to the stuff I found, and I'd need to look at trade records, which aren't available online, unfortunately. It didn't start selling beer until the 1800s. It wasn't a coaching inn. It was a pub.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's a kind of a potted history of Wootton. I've stunned you into silence, Gem.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to get my head around all of that information, if I'm totally honest. Because, I mean, it's no secret I am not a historian. Don't get me wrong, I'm very good at researching. If it's a private case, but I don't tend to do an awful lot of researching for public events, which is what the Ram's always been for me.
Yeah.
So it's just so different.
Yeah, that's my job, though, isn't it, girl?
Well, yeah. This is what you specialise in, isn't it?
But there's even more stuff about Gloucestershire as a place that I didn't remember. Oh, this stuff is very...
Go on, such as?
Right. So, Wootton was part of the manor of Berkeley, or Berkeley, it was sometimes known as. And you know, most villages were part of a bigger manor that was responsible for them, and the farmers would give all their stuff to the manor, and the manor would take the money and give them a bit back, the tenant farmers and all that kind of stuff. But it was part of the manor of Berkeley. Now, Berkeley Castle, or Berkeley Castle, which is still there and you can visit, and it looks amazing, and I think I might have to do a day trip there sometime, is where, I don't know if you heard of this, but when I did the show on Crumbs about 2 years ago on Castle Rising in Norfolk, it's where the amazing Queen Isabella was meant to have been imprisoned. I don't know if you know that story. She was put under house arrest for killing her husband, King Edward II. Well, King Edward II is actually, his tomb is in Gloucester Cathedral. And it's one of the things they think made Gloucester so prosperous in the 1300s, because loads of people were visiting to see this king's tomb, who was interred there in 1327. Well, what I'd forgotten before I started looking this up was it was actually in Gloucestershire that he was meant to have been murdered, at Berkeley Castle.
Ooh.
Now, this doesn't have anything on the ancient Ram in at all, because I doubt very much he went into the Ram. However,
he might have popped in, you never know.
He might have popped in for a pint when they let him off and weren't trying to sort of do weird things to his orifices. They weren't trying to bugger him with a red hot poker. It's easier to say. But the chances are he came through the village on the way to Gloucester. But the point is, it's where history all tags into each other, because I'd forgotten that it was Berkeley Castle that he's meant to have been held in, and some reports say she had him murdered, other reports say he died naturally. Who knows? But yeah, and that Wootton comes under the manor of Berkeley.
Wow.
It's these bloody rabbit holes I go down, dude. They just...
You see, this is it, though, isn't it? When you start researching, the rabbit holes that you go down are horrendous.
Yep.
I mean, you probably absolutely thrive off it.
I do, in a way, but sometimes it gets a bit sort of like, oh, for Pete's sake, can we just hit a dead end, please?
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're sat looking into things for 2.5 hours in the records office and you realise you're only scratching the surface and you've got to actually get home and pick the kids up from school, you're kind of like, this is getting a bit silly.
But this is it. This is exactly what happens. Like you'll sit down, you'll say, I've got an hour. I'm going to do a little bit of research, and then before you know it, you're like 3 or 4 hours down the line, and you've not moved.
Yep. And the husband's like, "Are we having any tea? It's 9:30."
Yeah, how are we eating today?
Oh, no, hell, sorry, love. But anyway, so this
it's the different directions as well, because you end up going off in all sorts of tangents. It's mad.
You do. But so the point I'm trying to make with all this, and people listening are probably going, "Oh, shut up, Penny, and talk about the ghosts," is that there is definitely a scene to be set for Gloucestershire to have something going on.
Oh yeah,
if you believe in it.
Yeah. Because
the other thing we didn't mention is that there's meant to be 2 ley lines running directly under the Ram.
The Ram, yeah.
Obviously, we don't know this for sure, but thinking about the combination of potentially limestone, potentially ley lines.
I was going to say, I'm sure that when I did look into the Ram, I'm sure I did actually find some evidence of the ley lines. But I can't be 100. I'm looking through my files now. Look.
That's all right. I haven't got a map of ley lines, but it does seem to be a very common occurrence that ley lines seem to come up whenever you're looking at somewhere that's meant to have a lot of weird activity. Yep. Now, the other thing that came up when I read paranormal accounts i.e. people trying to sell the place,
Yep.
is that it's on a pagan burial ground.
Yes.
Can't find anything historically to confirm this. Not saying it couldn't happen, because it's not that far from places like Stonehenge. So it's possible, but I couldn't confirm. I could neither confirm nor deny that particular piece of information. That does seem to be a very common one as well that comes up now. When anywhere's haunted, people go, oh, it was a pagan burial ground. It does seem to be a very common thing now as well, similar to the ley line thing. So that's one piece of information I can't confirm is correct, nor is a load of hooey. But if anyone can show me confirmation, like official historical confirmation that that's the case, I'd be very interested to see it. But when you look at the area, obviously there is a lot of pagan stuff down in the southwest. So it's possible. I mean, you're not a million miles from, well, not a million miles from Stonehenge. You're not a million miles from Avebury, Stone Circle. You're not that far from places like Glastonbury and all of those kind of things. So it's possible. It's possible. Now, you're one of the lucky few who's actually done an overnighter there. I
have indeed.
Okay, tell me about the overnighter.
Okay, so the overnighter, it started off as it was a public event from 9 till 2. And then 2 o'clock came round and the guests left, and it was just the staff staying over. So there was 4 or 5 of us. And the night itself, the whole night had been interesting. When we first got there to set up, we was just in the front room. I mean, by this point on this event, John was already in the care home. So,
John being John Humphreys, the guy who bought the place in 1968 and stopped it being demolished.
The one. Yeah. So John wasn't actually living there at this time, but we got there, was setting up. There was 3 of us there. And we was in the front room, and on what used to be like the old staircase, John had his leather coats hung up. Nobody was anywhere near them, and one of the coats fell off, but it was hooked on. It was hooked on quite securely. So, and that was at the very start of the night, or very start of the afternoon, if you will, because it was afternoon when we got there. So that was interesting. So I was like, okay, so was there a van going past? You know, because we have to rule it out, right? So was there a van going past at the time when that coat fell down? I can't rule that out. I can't rule out that there wasn't any sort of tremor from an earthquake, but what I can say is that nobody was anywhere near it, and there was no doors open to cause a draft for that coat to fall off. So that was interesting. That started the night. So we carried on setting up, getting all the CCTV out, and making sure that everything was safe and secure and stuff. Then the guests started to arrive, and the attic proved to be quite interesting that night. There was a lot of people completing Ouija board sessions up there, and they was getting quite a bit of corresponding information. What I will say is that information was direct for specific people.
Right.
So that was pretty cool to watch, in all fairness. And then when the guests left, it became a different place. It's like you hear it all the time, and I'm the biggest one because this drives me absolutely mad. But it was like the atmosphere changed.
Yeah.
And it was quite hard for me to actually put that into words, what I mean by that, but it felt different. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that we'd got used to being in this building with a lot of people, and then all of a sudden there was just a small handful of us.
Yeah.
And some of those people were upstairs and some of us were downstairs. It was literally a case of, we're going to bunk up, we're going to go to sleep, get up in the morning and travel home. So it's not even like we was, calling out, doing any experiments, anything like that, because we wasn't. we was just trying to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And the noises that we was all hearing was phenomenal. It was like, okay, so what is that noise? So us lot, being us lot, we was instantly like, well, we can't just lay here, so we're going to have to go and investigate.
Now, you guys are on your own in the building at this point. There's
nobody
else in there who could be doing it to try and wind you up.
No, absolutely not. And when I say that I 100% trust the people that was there, I 100% trust the people that was there.
Okay.
I would trust them with my life. So I know that they would not, even for a laugh, they would not be tapping or banging or making noises. That's just not who they are. And plus, we was in twos anyway, so the other person that was there would have seen or heard, and the noises was coming from rooms and areas that we wasn't actually in.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up getting up. By this time, it's like 3:30, 4:45 in the morning. It's like sleep's gone out the window now because
you don't
we
sleep.
need to know what this noise is, right? It was like, forget it, we're not going to sleep. So we literally grouped together, and when again the noises started, and it started from like the barn area.
Mm-hmm.
So off we popped into the barn, looking around, because it is quite a drafty barn. So instantly I ripped that off. It was like, okay, so any noises that I'm getting from here, I'm not too concerned with, for the simple reason there's so much stuff in the RAM. It is unreal.
Yeah.
And especially in the barn area, and incorporate the wind into that, things could move quite easily.
Yeah. Yeah,
so I was
any photos of the place. Yeah, he John is what you would have called a hoarder, isn't he?
Oh yes, without a doubt. So I just ripped that off, and it was like, okay, so any noises coming from the barn, I'm really not bothered about. But then one of the team that was with me was actually a medium, a psychic medium, and he said. Well, he was giving us some information about a spirit that was there. And he was like, he basically wants us to go upstairs into the witch's room. Mm-hmm. So it was like, okay, so if that's what they want, that's what they get, off we go. So we went off into the witch's room, and there was still equipment in there from when the guests had been there. So there was EMF meters, CCTV, the Ouija board was still on the table, and there was still a spirit box in there. So the guys ended up, I ended up sitting on the bed, and the guys started doing a spirit box session. Mm-hmm. And again, there was words coming through, but again, it's open to perception, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Whatever comes through a spirit box is open to perception.
Well, everything is, isn't it? Everything you do is open to how you interpret it, and and also how you follow it up.
Exactly.
Afterwards, so if you take it at face value, yeah.
I mean, each to their own. Everybody's going to do their own thing, aren't they? But the words that was coming through the spirit box is what the medium John had been saying previous to the spirit box session. So it was like, okay, so that is quite interesting. Yeah, and that did have me questioning, because this is going back to a point where I was even questioning mediums. You know, are they real? Is anything real in this world of paranormal? So, you know, I was really intrigued by that, because he'd said all this information, and then drip fed from the spirit box came the information that it just said. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things when I was reading up on when I go to investigate somewhere, I rarely, I do look up the history, some of the historical facts, because normally half the reason I'm there for people is to give them validation on some of the things they might be picking up. But I don't tend to look up ghost stories about the place or personal accounts, because then that might have my mind set on a certain, like, well, you know, I can't remember who said this the other day, and it's not someone I agree with on a lot of things, but I saw his point when he said if you keep telling someone a grey lady haunts a place, psychologically you'll start to see said grey lady. So
without a doubt.
so I don't look up these things. Some of them I know because I know the place and I've talked to so many people. You kind of know them, but
yeah, you get the stories, don't you?
You do, and I can't even remember where I was going with this question now. My mind's just gone completely blank. But do you? I know what it was. With the ram. God, I am professional, really. With the ram. A lot of the accounts you get are that it's the spirits are very evil, that one of the things I read was that there's an incubus and a succubus there, and one of them used to rape John Humphreys on a regular basis, and the witch doesn't want you in her room, and the bishop's room is the most haunted room you could ever stay in, and it's an evil place, and it's not nice, and it sort of... what's it? I read that 8 people who've stayed in the bishop's room or something have had to be, had become possessed and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm very dubious when I hear stuff like that. I'm very dubious.
What I can tell you is that I've never met an incubus or a succubus, and I've been to the ram several times and I've not been eaten.
So you weren't their type?
Obviously not. No. Obviously I wasn't good enough.
Well, let's face it, Zach Bagans didn't get sort of eaten alive either, did he?
I mean, if you want to talk about being eaten alive, I gave everything in that building the opportunity and I'm sure that the guy won't mind me saying this, but I blindfolded Mickey York from UK Haunted, handcuffed him to the bed, tied him, arms and legs. Honestly, you think I'm joking? I am not joking.
I'm going to message Mickey and ask him about this.
Ask him. So he was blindfolded. He was tied to the bed, both arms and feet. So he was literally spread eagle, if you will, on the bed, tied down so he could not move.
And then in the ram afterwards. So this is back in the hotel, and then in the ram afterwards.
Oh, no, it gets worse. It gets worse. I'm not done yet. So picture blindfold, tied to the bed. There was because bearing in mind, EMF pumps are meant to increase activity, right? So we surrounded him with
not
EMF
that kind
meters.
of activity.
No. So we surrounded him.
Wrong. Yeah.
We surrounded him with EMF pumps, and then because infrasound is also again meant to generate more activity, so we blasted the room with infrasound, and then just to add good measures, I played a demonic chant and said to anything that is here, Mickey is all yours. And we left him for about 45 minutes.
And is he still speaking to you?
Absolutely, he's still speaking to me. How many people would come up with things like that? Of course he's still going to be speaking to me.
Had you been reading 50 Shades of Grey or something before my investigation?
No, that's just how I roll, Pen.
Yeah, and you told me the handcuffs were from a past job as a policewoman. Oh my God. I don't quite know how to follow that one. So nothing happened with sex demons at this point?
No sex demons. What Mickey did say is he thought somebody had come in the room. Now, bearing in mind, we was all watching him on the CCTV. He actually said out loud, "Alex, go away. You're not going to scare me."
Interesting. And
bearing in mind,
Alex wasn't in the room.
Exactly. Alex was sat with me and the other people that were there. So no, Alex definitely was not in that room with Mickey, but Mickey was convinced that Alex had come in and he was just trying to play a trick on him. And then Mickey said he felt a touch. But again, as I say, we was all sat watching this as it unfolded. Which room was this in? That's in the bishop's room.
The bishop's room. Okay. Well,
and we was all in the witness room.
Laughed at your kinky past.
Oh, I know, right? Who said it was in the past?
Oh, how did I know this conversation was going to go this way? So you didn't feel threatened in the ram at all?
Not at all.
Because one of the interesting theories I was reading about, and I never had the pleasure of meeting John Humphreys, so I'm not talking ill of the dead or anything like that. I'm just, doing my job as a presenter and questioning things. There was an observation, I think it was a newspaper article, that said meeting him, and I'm paraphrasing this, meeting him, it was almost like he couldn't leave, and that even though his family had begged him to sell up and leave, because the place has no running water, I believe. Is that correct?
No, it has got running water.
Oh, it has now, has it? Well, apparently
or it did have. That could have changed since the last time I visited.
Oh, well, this newspaper article said it didn't have any running water, and his family had begged him to leave because they felt that he kind of was unable to leave the ram. There was something holding him there.
Well, I've spoken to Caroline, his daughter. And
she now runs it, doesn't she? Yeah, she does run it,
but she did say that as well. I mean, she said as she was growing up, she couldn't wait to get out of there. But she also said that she felt like her dad was stuck there.
Mm. So, what do you think about that?
You see, I'm not 100% on where I stand with this, because I did meet John, and I've met him a few times actually, and lovely guy. But towards the later stages of him being in the house, he'd started to deteriorate. So mentally, I don't think he was completely 100% compos mentis.
Right.
Which again is going to have an impact on what he's feeling and sensing and everything else, that can produce this paranormal activity. So could the catalyst have been John?
That's something that I've wondered when I've watched programs on it, investigations there. He did seem quite an eccentric old man.
Oh, yeah. Heart of gold, to his own tune. Lovely, but yeah.
Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, because as somebody I read on Facebook recently, this quote, I'm still using it today, is think outside the box. There's loads of room out here. I think it's great, and I think that's a great sort of way to look at it. And John definitely did think outside the box.
Oh, massively.
But the other side of it might be that he was manipulated to be there to provide the energy that they wanted.
Well, we can't rule it out, can we?
No.
We can't completely rule that out. We can have our own opinions on that, and my opinion on that one would be that pretty much that wasn't the case, and it was more the case of John didn't want to leave.
Right. Because he was quite old when he did pass over, wasn't he? He was in his mid-80s, so...
Yeah.
And you and I both know, you do see people as they get older, they don't look after themselves as much, and they might start to see and hear things that nobody else is seeing or hearing, and we don't know at this point is if they genuinely are seeing and hearing things that we just can't see and hear, or whether something's changed in their brain that's clicked off that. We don't... I know you and I have had quite a lot of discussions about this off because of the field of work we were both in.
Yeah, I was going to say it's simple. It goes back to even when I was in care works, and we're talking a good 15 years ago for that.
Yeah.
When I very first started in care work, the amount of people that were fully compos mentis that would tell me that there was a cat in the room, and I'd be shooing out these invisible cats,
Yeah.
Just because you're fully compos mentis doesn't mean to say that as you start to get older, your brain starts to deteriorate, that you're not going to experience delusions.
But are they delusions?
Well...
That's the point I'm making. We don't...
Science would say yes.
Science would say ghosts don't exist.
Not necessarily. Science actually says...
Some branches of science would.
Yeah. But that's a whole other story, Penny, right?
That is a whole other subject. That is a whole other subject. But I told you I play devil's advocate. Because there has, the amount of times that I have seen people who have started to lose a bit of capacity are seeing things, and then when I have a medium pick up what they're seeing before they've said it, and you think, well, that's a bit strange. I'm not saying that is always the case. It's one of those things that I don't think we'll ever know until we completely learn to understand the brain and if there is an afterlife. And
you see, this is just it though, understanding the brain on its own.
That's the fun part.
Exactly, understanding the brain on its own, because as you know, I've done a lot of work, work, which involves the brain, and we still don't fully understand the workings of the brain.
Nope.
We don't know its full capabilities.
Not at all. It's one of the few organs we can't measure its full capabilities. So, it's a fascinating. Actually, without sounding like a real nerd, one of the most fascinating conversations I had was with a doctor of neuropsychology about things like that. And although everyone else who was listening to us was snoring, I found it rather interesting.
Yeah, you see, I would have too.
Because I'm a bit of a nerd, and even he would admit we don't know 10% of what goes on in the brain because we can't study it when people are using it. No, you can't see what's going on. At least with the heart, you can see the chambers opening and closing, and
and you can pop meters on and wear them because I've had a heart monitor on for 72 hours, and
and
the
most you can do with the brain is put the electrodes on to see which bits are kicking off on certain things.
Which is usually when you're asleep.
True. But on that aside, so the $1 million question, you don't think the ram feels threatening?
No.
Do you think there's, if you believe in demons, but do you think there's a demonic energy in there?
No.
Okay.
No, just no. You see, I think the world's gone a bit mad, Penny. I'm not going to lie. I think the world's gone a bit mad. You see one thing and then now everything's a demon.
Yeah, don't get me started on that one.
Well, you brought up the demon thing, so you started yourself on this one.
Don't get me started on the everyone seems to think everything's a demon.
And it brings it back down to everybody wanting to sensationalise the paranormal.
Every orb is an orb and not a piece of dust.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I am. Well, you know this. You know that whenever I see someone going, it's a demon. No, it's probably just a pissed off spirit.
Yeah, and elementals.
Yeah.
The elementals are making a guest appearance again at the minute on the paranormal scene.
Yeah, they do seem to be a lot more frequent than they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, but it's the same as anything. It's like fashion. It goes around in fits and starts.
So you don't think the ram is a threatening place?
No, I don't.
You think there is potentially...
Would I go to the ram and spend 48 hours in the ram completely alone? Yes, I would.
Okay, well, my question was going to be, would you take me to the ram for just the two of us and think we'd be safe? That was going to be my question, but you've kind of done it without me, so... Okay.
Yeah, without a doubt. Anytime you want to put that to the test, Pen, feel free.
You're on, but I don't want to be handcuffed to the bed.
I'll leave the handcuffs at home.
Thank you. Yeah, that would freak me out too much to be tethered to anything, to be honest.
You haven't said that you're not going to be blindfolded, though.
Oh, I can do the blindfolded bit as long as I can take the blindfold off if I start to feel claustrophobic. But if my arms are tethered, I can't do that, can I?
That's fine.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Anyway.
But no, I don't think it feels negative or oppressive or any of the other common words that are used to describe a haunted or alleged haunted building. No, I feel quite safe.
Cool. Does it have an energy about it?
Yeah. Yeah. But then... is that the building, or is that what us, the customers, are taking in there?
So you're saying if you took the sign down outside it and you didn't know what it was going to look like, and you went in it blind, not well, you know what I mean, but blind of knowledge, would you feel the same?
I think a lot of people would be freaked out if you took the sign down and took them in there because of the layout, because of the clutter, because, in the back room that's next to the barn area, there is actually a hole in the ground. So I think if people didn't know what it was, I think they would be intimidated by the building, without a doubt.
Okay. So is that hole where he supposedly found the bones?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I even made somebody stand in that.
You made someone stand on someone's grave?
Oh, yeah, because where is the evidence to back up that it is a grave?
Right, so that he hasn't got the bones on display that he found?
No.
Okay.
But you see, this is it. I am quite evil like that. And I do a lot of we'll call them experiments, where, especially when you've got a backstory such as bones being found. So the minute you say to somebody that's where the pagan burial site was, there was bones found in there, now go stand in it, their anxiety is going to increase.
Psychological, yeah.
Exactly right. So I do a lot of experiments like that where I'll push people to the extremes, and it's not just people, I would do it to myself as well. But I like to try and push those boundaries just to see what sort of results we'd get. And then I'd get somebody to come and do it that had absolutely no belief in the paranormal, or that it was a pagan burial site, or that there was any bones found in there, just to see the difference.
But how do you measure it? How this experiment, if you're doing an experiment, you want to be able to measure it. How do you measure what you're finding?
Well, I had questionnaires that was filled out before and after.
Okay.
And I had equipment scattered around, so there was millimeters around that burial site, and one in the hand which didn't move. The only one that moved was the one that the people were holding when being switched out, and then CCTV cameras around. So literally I had a chart, and it was like a cross for looking, and do you know what I mean? So I've still got all the paperwork actually from it, so right. I will show you it next time I see you, because it is really interesting.
So with the people you do these experiments with, were they members of the public or members of your team?
No, members of the public.
Right.
Yep. And I have done it with team. As I say, you know, I won't try and put something forward to anybody that I'm not prepared to do myself.
Yeah, true.
So I always try the experiments first.
But how do you handcuff yourself to a bed and wait for a succubus
or
an incubus?
I get somebody else to handcuff me, don't I? I can't do that myself.
I was going to say, that's a pretty neat trick.
Yeah, oh yeah, magical.
Yeah, it's the sex demon was actually doing the handcuffs for you. So he was that eager. Oh dearie me.
Well, I think, and I just think that you have to try and shake things up a bit, right?
But how, when you're shaking things up, right? And I'm not attacking you or any. This is a question. How do you stay respectful as well?
With great difficulty. You just have to bear in mind that, you know, if these things are factual, then you are potentially disrespecting somebody. So I always say, like, I'll get there and I will tell the building exactly what I'm going to do, which sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but I do it anyway. So when I get there, I'm usually the first person there. So I'll walk around the building and I'll tell the building and anybody that's listening, bearing in mind I'm usually on my own. So I'll tell the building and anybody that's listening what I intend to do and the reasons why I'm going to do it. And then we'll obviously get the guests in, get it done. And then at the end of the night, I also walk round, because I always do a final check of every building before I leave to make sure everything is as I found it. Yeah. And as I'm walking around, I also say thank you very much for having us tonight. I'm sorry if any disrespect was caused. Do you know what I mean? So I just put it out there.
Right, okay.
So it may sound disrespectful to a lot of people, the experiments that I'll put to, but I never do anything without, and I know it sounds crazy, never do anything without warning the building that I'm going to do it.
Okay. No, it doesn't sound crazy, because if they don't want to partake, they can bugger off.
Exactly right.
Okay. I just wanted to ask the question. I hope you don't mind, because
I
think there's too many people new into the industry who they only see a part of it. And so they see people pushing the boundaries. They see people pushing the boundaries, but don't realise the prep work that's been done before said boundaries are being pushed.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of what you see is standard ghost hunting anyway.
Mm.
I think the worst that you get is somebody shouting.
Mm. When there's no need to.
Whereas I do experiments.
Yeah. Okay. So, would you say the Ram is a top 10 haunted location in the UK you think people should try out, given the chance?
Absolutely not. But I do think that people should go and at least experience it, because I think everybody should experience every haunted location, actually, in all fairness.
Nice get out.
Well, no, it's true. I've just said no. I don't think and a lot of people would completely disagree and say yes, it is one of the top 10. Yeah. But the only reason it is one of the top 10 is because lots of TV shows have been there. It's not because of the evidence or the haunting or anything to back it up. It is purely because TV said so. Okay. Would it be on my top 10 list? Not a chance.
Okay, interesting. And you chose to talk about this location with me as well, so
I
that's
know,
even
right?
more interesting.
Yeah, but exactly. But I think a lot of people are too quick to say, went to this location, it was awesome, blah, 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 blah. But not a lot of people are willing to say, well, actually, I went and some interesting stuff happened, but do I think it's as haunted as it's made out to be? No. People don't usually like to put themselves out there.
No, true. Well, it's been an interesting chat. I've learnt from you.
And I've definitely learnt from you, Pen. I'll get the fluffy ones out for you, chick.
As long as it's black fluff or purple fluff. I don't do pink. I think you'd have to actually knock me out before you got me to be handcuffed to anything. Seriously, I think my control issues would kind of go through the roof. But anyway, thank you ever so much. What have you got coming up? Anyway, who have you got on Supernatural next week?
Oh, on Monday. Yes, I have. I've got Cal Cooper on Monday.
Oh, you lucky thing. Ask him about blessing people dressing up as a priest recently.
Oh, well.
Did you see those photos?
I don't think I have.
Go on his Facebook page. He dressed up as a priest. It caused a few hot flushes amongst some of his followers.
Oh. I shall have to go stalk Cal Cooper. But yeah, Monday's Cal Cooper. And then on the 12th of July, I'm heading off to Warwick Castle.
Ooh, and that's with Entering the Unknown, isn't it? Isn't it a charity event for the British Heart Foundation? It
sure is. So that's what I've got coming up at the minute. I'm not out a lot at the minute, actually, if I'm honest.
Well, we all need a break from it sometimes. Can't do everything, can we? And
no.
As you know as well as I do, you do an investigation, that's 2 days out of your weekend.
Exactly
gone.
Right.
What with the travelling and the recovery and everything else. And that's not even including listening to the sort of recordings you've taken and assessing research and stuff, which I've still got a shed load of that to do from previous investigations.
It is just never ending, isn't it?
It is. Well, thank you ever so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me,
Madame Drury. Anyone who wants to check out Gemma's Supernatural show, it's on Parasearch Radio on a Monday at 9 o'clock. Same as mine, actually. You can catch it on Spreaker and on YouTube, as long as you click like, share and subscribe. You can catch them at any time and listen to our dulcet tones. Although I haven't gone into Northern yet.
No, you've done quite well.
I kept English. Sorry, I didn't mean that.
Us Southern. Northerners are still English, you know.
Yeah, but you don't talk proper English. We talk proper English down here.
Oh, don't you start. Apparently I say bus really funny.
You don't say it's funny, as some people have heard. Bus, boss.
The bus.
Yeah, it changes. The only thing that makes me know I've got Northern heritage is when I say things like, I say Lancaster, but then I say Castle. So that's the mixture of the two.
Yeah.
Lancaster Castle.
What about Bath?
Bath. No, I would say Bath. I'd say Bath. Maths. Grass. No, I'd say grass.
Oh, this is turning into a whole different conversation now.
It is. The thing is, my dad still says grass, and he hasn't lived up north for 60 years. But he still says grass.
It is grass.
It's grass.
It's grass.
Grass. Anyway, on that note, grass off. So do go and catch Gemma's show, and I'm muting her now, so she's probably going to start yelling abuse at me in the background because you can't hear her, but I still can. Anyway, so go and listen to Gemma's Supernatural show. You're in for a treat, and so she'll be chatting to the absolutely awesome. He's a doctor, isn't he, Mr. Dr. Cal Cooper on Monday. She just said he is, but Nobody can hear you, Gem. So I will repeat for you. Yes, he is. He is. I was right. He is a doctor. Very fascinating chap to listen to. So catch her show on Monday. If you want to meet her at Warwick Castle, go and check out the Entering the Unknown pages if you're around on the 12th. And she's not going to be the only special guest there. There's going to be quite a few people who you might want. And I believe Mickey York's one of them. And she's just confirmed that. So you can ask him about being handcuffed by Gemma Drury, how it felt, if you go along. But on that note, I've overrun by 5 minutes. I'm probably going to get told off in a minute, so I'm going to close the show down now. Thank you ever so much for listening to tonight's show on the Ancient Ram Inn. If you have got any questions for Gemma, just send them along to us and we'll put them to her about what her thoughts on the place were. But until next week I should be talking to my good friend Richard Estep and one of his colleagues, Jason Felon, all about the Cripple Creek jail that they did recently. Should be interesting. I believe Richard was locked into one of the cells. Having heard his sense of humour, that's something a lot of us would probably like to do to him at some point, but catch me next week on that one. But on that note, have a good evening, sleep tight, and don't worry too much about things that go bump in the night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.